Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. This is Mr. Pete from InsideOut Literary Arts, and today I'm going to read you one of my favorite books of all time, Harold and the Purple Crayon. I don't know that I would have written this book of my own inside my pencil about a magic pencil, which some of you are familiar with, if this book wasn't also in the world, Harold and the Purple Crayon. So that's Harold right here, and in his hand is his purple crayon, which, as you're about to see, that purple crayon is a pretty great thing. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. But there wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. So what do you think he had to do? He draws a moon. And he also needed something to walk on. So he draws a sidewalk. That purple crayon, whatever Harold draws, it sort of becomes the world, which is why I love this story. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost, and he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. I wonder where he's going. But Harold didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. Sometimes the moon does that, sort of always there. It's following us. Even though, of course, the moon is, it seems at least, to be moving across the sky. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. So as you can see, as Harold is going along on this walk, on this journey, his magic purple crayon is coming in quite handy. And he's sort of creating the world as he walks through it. The tree turned out to be an apple tree. It's a good thing. I love apples. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold, and he backed away, and his hand holding the purple crayon shook. I wonder what the shaking of that purple crayon might create for Harold. Suddenly, he realized what was happening. You can see his hand sort of shaking as drawing what looks like to be the waves on the ocean. But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. Uh-oh. I hope Harold can swim. If not, what do you think he'll do? He came up thinking fast. Sometimes as writers we have to think fast and come up with the next solution. And in no time, Harold was climbing aboard a trim little boat. That'll save him. And Harold quickly set sail. You can see, not only did he have to draw the boat, he had to draw the sail. And the moon, see the moon? Sailed along with him. It's like the moon is Harold's best friend. Maybe some of you love the moon too. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. See, he made land, meaning he found his way to maybe the seashore. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. He knows the moon's up there, but everything else looks a little maybe strange and unfamiliar. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. See, he's drawing a blanket in the sand. You can see, too, he had to draw an anchor to keep his sailboat from blowing away in the wind. And let's see, it looks like in the middle of that blanket, Harold drew some food. Wonder what kind of food you would draw if you were creating a picnic for yourself. Harold loves pie. There was nothing but pie. But there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. I know my favorite is cherry pie. Maybe you have a favorite pie too. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. You can see he took a bite out of most of the pies, which I'm sure he's got a bellyache after doing that. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. You can see Harold's got an idea how to get rid of these pies. It looks like he's drawing something with that purple crayon. I wonder what he's drawing. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up, meaning to eat all the pies. You can see there's the porcupine, there's the hungry moose, and you know what the porcupine and the moose are going to do with all those pies. And then off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. I guess if you elevate and then you can see where exactly Harold is. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see. So he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. So he's drawing the hill. The hill, he decides, could be bigger. Let's draw a mountain. From the top of the mountain, I should be able to see home. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. You can see Harold up at the top with his purple crayon, about to stand up and look to see if he can see his bedroom window. Uh-oh. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. And there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. You can see Harold there falling head first through the air. sort of flying, but I don't think Harold can fly, do you? He's not a bird. But luckily, Harold kept his wits, meaning he didn't freak out. And he kept also a good grip on his purple crayon. And he made a balloon and he grabbed on to it. So that balloon hopefully is filled with helium and will keep Harold from crashing down to Earth. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he still couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. Maybe he needs to what? Draw a house? So he made a house with windows. And he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. Good idea, Harold. But guess what? None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. So Harold made some more windows, of course, with his purple crayon. He made a big building full of windows. Remember, everything that Harold draws becomes a part of the world. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. Looks like a big city. I guess a lot of people live in these buildings behind all these windows. Harold's looking for his bedroom window too. But none of these windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. I wonder what Harold's thinking. Wonder what he's thinking he should do. Sometimes we have to ask for help. He decided to ask a policeman. Policemen can be very helpful. So guess what he has to do? He has to draw a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. And then suddenly, Harold remembered. I wonder what Harold's gonna remember. Maybe it has something to do with the moon, which, if you've noticed, has been with Harold throughout this entire adventure. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He drew it with his magic purple crayon. And he got in it and he drew up the covers. And then the purple crayon dropped on the floor. You can see right there where it is. And Harold dropped off to sleep. The end. I want you to think about that purple crayon that's sitting on the floor. To me, it always seems like it's sitting there waiting for us, or inviting us even to maybe pick it up. I wonder what would happen if you were to pick up Harold's purple crayon and maybe borrowed it for a day or a night. I wonder what kind of adventure it would take you on. So what I'd like you to do is to take up Harold's purple crayon. Maybe put your name in the title of your own adventure. Mr. Pete and the purple crayon, for instance. I wonder where that purple crayon would lead me. I wonder where that purple crayon would lead you. Have fun with it. Enjoy.